Good morning. Helps if I turn on the microphone. What's up, guys and gals? Don't want to exclude you guys and gals. I know I go live too much, but I don't know what else to do. I've got kind of a light day today, looking for one, and then I've got a fire I got to put out later. So we'll see what happens, but that's why I go live at this time, because it's kind of too early to really do anything, because most of the brokers in my time zone aren't awake or live yet. So anyways, there's really not much I can do at this time. But anyways, good morning. I figured we'd look at some low boards. I was trying to book two, not one, but two power only loads yesterday, and that was fun. That's fun. Give me a second here. All right. So, and that was a challenge. So, kudos to the carriers that can keep doing the power only thing, because I'm seeing that there's a trick to it. So, anywho, all right. Let's look at some low board stuff. We'll do our shout outs. And yeah, so here was a so let me show you guys something here. All right, this is power only. This is Romulus, Michigan, the Wright City, Missouri, which is what I was trying to score yesterday. And as you can see, there's only one load. And here's the interesting thing about this one. Okay, they're posting it for $400. Okay, yesterday TQL had this posted for $500, and I got them up to $600. It's not a it's not a loadout trailer. So my question is Trailer Move the original broker on this, or are they co-brokering, or is the customer using multiple brokerages to move these trailers? I don't know. And as you can see, they've got it for $1.26 a mile. Hold on a second here. I'm gonna. Sorry about that. Now, as you can see, the 123 low board, it automatically refreshes. So looks like there's another one. See, so the South Bend, Indiana to Valley Park, Missouri. You know what this is? This is two flatbed trailers stacked on a flatbed, and you need your own straps. And there's a bunch of these that are being moved, a bunch of them. Of course, they're offering a little bit more money on this one because why? Because you have to have your own straps. So this is also another trailer move. So obviously the trailer move, broker's up and around, and he or she is posting on this. But there's been like a ton of these on both low boards. Well, I say both low boards, 1, 2, 3, and DAT. I don't use truck stop. But and that's it. This is so my search criteria is literally 200 miles to 150-mile radius of of where I'm wanting to go. So yeah, got the water bottle. All right. So, anyways, let's do some shout outs. Let's see. Old school, new school. What's up? Good morning. Waiting to get loaded. You were the first one in here before the music even started. So, I don't know how those YouTube notifications work. WCF, what's up? Oop, getting ready to leave for the receiver. Morning, all. Good deal. Still kind of looking, but it's looking. It was looking grim yesterday, Don. SST, what's up? Smitty, good morning. Max Force, good morning. Pam, what's up? Sterling, good morning from cold Nevada. Almost done for the day, but I'll be back in the truck by midnight. Bull of the Woods, counting down. Greg, what's up? Truck pilot Nate, good morning from rainy Tulsa. Yeah, it's going to be raining here in this area for the next 3 days. The good thing is the temperature is barely going to change. It's going to be anywhere from 49 to 53, I think, for the entire week. So, or weekend at least. What's up, my brother from down under from another mother? What's up, Randall and Karen? Hope you're doing well. Morning from Massachusetts. I have a live load in an hour. You got to bump a dock. That's going to be fun. Jerome, good morning. 4JS Transport. No, you don't go live too much, Jim. Being offload in Chicago and then heading to Cincy. I'm here for the steamy low board action. TBT saying hi to everybody. The feline exclaim, me out. Yep. I know you go live around 7 and usually up and rolling already, so I look for knowledge and wisdom. I don't know if I give that, but I just kind of give my outside the box viewpoint. And I believe that's a as Greg calls it, the gift of discernment. Because I don't know, the crowd mom mentality, man, that can bring a person down, and everybody's and look, Jeff and I have these discussions about what's going on in the market and what guys are struggling with and you know and you can have all the low boards and all the charts and all the averages and all the analytics and all the algorithms thrown at you, but being able to focus on yourself is probably the most important. You can have all the tools in the toolbox, but if you don't know how to use them, they do you no good. But if you can't get up out of the chair and grab that wrench out of the toolbox, that's the most important thing. So there's a few things that I see that's going on with a lot of people that are going to put them out of business. But then there are things that I see consistently over the years of what's kept people in business. And it always comes back to the same thing. You can have all these formulas, all these, strategies and all these different platforms. You can switch trailers, you can switch companies, you can switch, contract to spot to contract. You can pay attention to all the charts and everything that these companies like FreightWaves put out. And then I know people that don't pay attention to any of that and they're doing okay. What's the difference? It's mindset. It's getting your ducks lined up in a row. I had a phone call from somebody that he needed some, I don't know if I call it advice, but just kind of a perspective, I guess. And I was like, here's your challenges. And if I was in your shoes, this is what I would do. And that's pretty much all I do. My words are pretty much just an opinion, I think. And because I don't really have the only data I have to back up everything I've talked about is what I've seen in the past, what's working now, and what's not working now. The so mindset is number one. Number two, part of your ducks that you need to have lined up is foundation. You don't build a house without a solid foundation. And because once you build the house on a shaky foundation, it's costly and more expensive to fix than just having the solid foundation in the first place. And sometimes it's difficult to create a solid foundation if you don't have solid ground. And that's what a lot of people lack right now is solid ground and solid foundation. Because you can have all the tools at your disposal. You can have the best, latest, greatest truck, best, latest, greatest trailer. But if you don't have a solid foundation at home and you don't have a solid financial foundation, you are being challenged more than the person that does. And that's your competition. And that's something that a lot of people don't really realize is that what's your competition doing? Remember, okay, you people that are my age, remember McDonald's and Burger King back in the day? They were the fast food burger wars and also the carbolicious soda wars. Coke, Pepsi, the cola wars as they call it. You remember that? That they knew who their competition was, and they were always trying to one up each other. For every corner that had a McDonald's, you had a Burger King, and then Wendy's got in the deal, and then Taco Bell said, "Look, we're different," and they came in on the deal. And when it came to the cola wars, same thing. You even had like Coke and Pepsi drivers literally fighting each other. Well, I don't know about that, but that's what I envision. Because they're in competition with each other. That's the thing about capitalism is it's competition. And you might look at somebody's truck, and look at it's a rattle trap, and you might think, wow, that guy doesn't have his act together. And then 10 years later, you might still see the same rattle trap and same driver. He's still there. Well, what is he doing right? Is he on YouTube bitching about the rates? No. So you can't judge a book by its cover either, because I know people with some very nice trucks that aren't doing well at all. There was Cassius King put up a video yesterday. It was a short. It was a guy selling a show truck, Peterbilt 389, never pulled a load, never even had a trailer hooked up to it. $369,000 that truck's for sale. It's got 5,000 miles. I forget what year it was. I think it was a 20 or 21. And who's got that kind of expendable income to pay? I mean, that truck, is it worth $369,000? What good is that truck going to do? And it's a 389. So if you're on freight with it, you better be running some really good freight with it for that price. Broker just offered me $500 for Edgerton to St. Louis load to hold over the weekend. Forget about that. Wish you the best of luck today, Snorelord. Looks like it'll be rough. I called on that load, and it was the same thing. And that's posted like 18 times. So that's why I didn't even bothering you with that. So amen, Snorelord, know when to take your ball and go home. And look, and here's the thing. People have this weird definition of failure. And we talked about that last week where I said if I just decided to sell my truck and then give up this dispatch thing, would I be a failure? I think it would be the end of a I don't know, it'd be the end of a chapter, but I wouldn't call that a failure. Because if you look at the most successful people in the world in the past, they failed many times. It's just, it's kind of, most failures are just a chapter ending. And you got to know when to begin the next chapter, where to begin the next chapter. But they told me when I got my CDLs, I never worry about money again. Well, you wouldn't worry about jobs, but what's the right job for you? Being able to see outside the box is wisdom. I think that all the years that I wasn't included in parties and included with the rest of the crowd, and I would go to social events and just kind of sit in the corner, be antisocial. I think that that's while it kind of sucked, I wasn't like some social butterfly. I think that that had a purpose, and that purpose was to, look at what the crowd's doing and do something different. But not so but here's the caveat to that. You can't be so different and try to reinvent the wheel because I mean, it's good to look outside of the box, but if you try to reinvent the wheel, guess what? Now you don't have any statistical data on how it's going to work. And if you want to pave your own road or reinvent the wheel, that's a lot more work. So you definitely have to have the right mindset for that. And so there's a balance. Again, I'm always in the middle. Not over here, not over there, but somewhere in the middle is the answer. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, but you definitely want to look outside the box, see what's going on. And if 20 drivers that I know will sit there and say that this information and that information is crap, and that information helps me, then that just takes them out of the game. That gives me a competitive edge. And that's what you have to kind of look at this is it's a competition. Not only are you going against the dude with the nice truck on the right and then the guy with the rattle trap to the left, you're going against the Schneiders, the Creets, the Swifts. You're going against really big league players, the people that are able to go to Washington and get stuff done in their favor. That's capitalism. That's competition. Some places like, oh, how can I be better than my competition? Then other businesses look at how can I destroy my competition. So that's something that you have to consider. And so when you come out into competition, you really have to, I mean, think again, I'm going to go back to football analogy. If a team hasn't practiced, it doesn't have some solid plans and plays, and don't like being tackled, what's the chances of their success at winning the game? And there's so many times that I talk to drivers that, well, I don't do this, I don't do that, I won't do this, I won't do that. What will you do? Your competition is going to go into the city that you don't want to go into. This competition will run that snowy route that you won't. This competition will do the multi-stops in areas that you don't want to go. And you know what? They're going to sit there and they're going to brag about their numbers on the social media, and then you're going to think bad about yourself because you're not making that kind of money. Or you're a new person that doesn't know any better that's going, oh, wow, you can make X amount of dollars, not realizing the work that's involved with it. That's kind of to me that's how I look at things. When a driver asks me to talk about my services as a dispatcher, I'm interviewing them as well. Like, what are their needs? What's your mindset? What's your structure? And if you're a carrier owner, you should be doing the same thing. In which we do. We talk to the drivers and we're like, okay, what do you need? What do you want? Where are you at? What do you have? And then we hope that our platform appeals to them. And it's because you're going against the Snyders, you're going against the Creets, you're going against the Swifts. And while yes, they account for maybe 5 to 8% of the entire industry, they're still your competition. Walk through any truck stop. Look at how many different styles of trucks there are. The Freightliner hauling a dry van has different needs than the tanker, the 389 pulling the tanker. And you have to realize that the majority of this industry is not on the spot market. So you're trying to create something that's hard. You really have to have a stable foundation to do what we're doing. And so being able to look outside the box, look for opportunity where everybody else sees, misery. And I know several drivers that have done that, and guess what? They're doing well. They're not calling me, griping about rates. In fact, most of them are quiet. They don't want anybody else to know what they're doing because it's so cutthroat that people will underbid you and undercut you to a degree that will just take you back. And once, when I was at Landstar, I delivered a load in El Paso, Texas. Now, this is back before I had not mastered, but it was any good at all about self-dispatch, not realizing that I should have looked at what El Paso had. And I probably glanced at it, but like, oh, I'll find something. And I couldn't find anything. And then someone said, you need to put your minimum rate at $1. A bunch of stuff will pop up. And sure enough, it did. Like, well, Landstar must not have any freight out here. No, they had freight out there. But guess what? All the trucks that live down there that were all sitting at that Petro there in El Paso, they had all that freight. That stuff wasn't even hitting the low board. And you know what? They will run that stuff for $1 a mile. I had a couple of drivers tell me that. That's why I struggled to get out of El Paso. I think I ended up going to New Mexico, and then from New Mexico I deadheaded to Texas, and then Texas, it was a mess. I was literally bouncing all over the place with no plan, no direction, other than, oh, I need money. And that's not, guess what? That was very frustrating. Trucking and life in general is so full of variables. There are no absolutes. Absolutely. My old boss has been a contractor for FedEx Ground since the 80s when it was RPS. His mindset has seen him through it all and will retire a very happy man. Consistent mindset and do business right. I actually saw a Coke and Pepsi driver get into a fight at a store over who gets the part closer. I was really young when I saw that. Chucky, what's up? CDN, good morning. When I was younger, I'd straight up quit my job at the start of hunting season. In the band world, in the music world, a lot of well-known thrash and death metal bands, those guys would have dead-end jobs because they would have to quit whenever they had to go on tour. And so these guys would do this for 10, 15 years and not gain anything because, if you're an underground metal band, you don't make a ton of money. You're not like Metallica making thousands upon thousands of dollars a night touring. And you're lucky to get gas money and hotel for the next gig. But you did it for the love of the music. But the part of that process is you had to sacrifice your career, any career that you wanted. And you didn't buy things like houses and cars because that caused payments, and you couldn't afford payments if you're constantly quitting your job all the time. I got to check out something here real quick, guys. All right. It's one of the fires I got to put out today. So this probably won't go too much later. None of my coworkers want to go to New York City. I'll do it. I'm also the highest paid driver this year. There you go. Pigtail, good morning. You struggled to get out of El Paso because your perception of the business was skewed by thinking you couldn't be profitable if you hated the one load for $1 a mile. That is absolutely true, Big Rig CEO. Absolutely true. Because when someone said, well, yeah, these guys will do these loads for 75 cents to $1 a mile all day long. And it just blew my mind. Meanwhile, I didn't know what my exact costs were at that time at all. I was just measuring my success with my deposit slips. Yeah, don't do that. Perception is key. Absolutely. And because they were willing to do that, those agents had them in their pocket. Because you guys got to understand, and that's the other thing. I didn't understand the Landstar system. I understand it now. I understand what makes money over there. I understand how the agencies work. I understand the politics of it. And knowing what I know, someone asked me, would I go back to Landstar now? And if I had to, if like someone, forced me to, I would definitely have a lot more tools, a lot more knowledge to make it work better. Because what I was doing was not working there. And and unlike this climate that we have now where people get on YouTube and tell you all their secrets, Landstar drivers didn't do that. You'd have some of the old school guys that will kind of give you some tips, but a lot of them held their information very close to the chest because they didn't want you taking their, because it was a competition. Schneider, one of the things that I admired about Schneider was that if their capacity gets too loose, they will stop hiring. They will stop adding trucks. The first step is they stop doing referral bonuses. So you're not compelled to try to recruit. And then the second thing they would do is they would stop hiring in certain areas. And then the third thing they would do would be like SFI only. Then at one point they couldn't even get SFI trucks in, so it was at a standstill. And that usually doesn't last long, because if things are that hard, a lot of people will go out, so that now they got some lease turn-ins that they can start distributing again. But Landstar was like, the CEO goes, hey, we want to be up to 10,000 trucks by the end of the year, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, they got ads for their agents to be sitting on the beach with their laptop, acting like, it's not work. And that could be the furthest thing from the truth. Where Schneider's like, we're almost up to 3,000 drivers on the IC. Yeah, we just lost a couple of these big contracts, so we need to stop hiring, because they want their own contractors to succeed. So I always laugh at these Schneider groups when they say, "Oh man, once you make too much money, they filter your low board where you can't see loads." Really? They want you to make less money? I've never seen a scenario where Jeff's like, man, this one contractor is making way too much money. I need to tell him to calm down. Never. You also didn't realize that working on averages of many loads together, not one load individually. That's true, and that's the thing. Everybody focuses on one load, and that's one of the challenges of how like trucking pays. We pay after every load, so you might have one load that you didn't have any fuel taken out. You might have a load that no fuel was taken out, so it looks awesome on the settlement, and then you have one load that was pretty much all your fuel money, so you get a settlement for $30 if it's a short load. That happened to me many times, and but I was okay with that. But sometimes we get a new person in here that doesn't understand that, and so we kind of have to like look at and then Jeff like calls him up and say, hey, what's going on? Well, this and this. Well, I mean, at the end of the month you had X amount. Oh, oh, okay. And that's what Jeff had to do with me back when I was still at Landstar. He had this way of going, well, you've made X amount, and then that's when I realized I wasn't doing the math correctly. Oh, I have more money than I thought. And then I got into the fine details. I'm like, oh, okay, that's where it went. That's what happened. This is what's going on. And a lot of people aren't honest enough with themselves to do that. And look at the mindset. So if you've got this dark cloud in your head at all times, how do you see through that fog? How do you see through that? If you constantly ingest all this negativity on YouTube, I guarantee you that you're probably struggling more than your competition of the guy that's doesn't even have a YouTube account. Is not on Facebook. He's reading a book. He's listening to audiobooks going down the road. Not some ramblings of an angry person. Because sometimes that information is too much, and sometimes that information is too much, and it clouds your judgment. And so when you see the loads, paying lower and lower and lower, the same loads that I was doing for 1,000 are now going for 550. That's tough. And at least I had the knowledge that it was eventually going to come back down, but I also have the knowledge it's eventually going to go back up. How long do you survive that? You have major retail outlets, these companies that rule kind of our country, that will have months of loss, but they always end up on top. Anybody who's got Pepsi and Coke stock, what has that done? What's the history of that stock? It's progressively done well. It's one of those stocks that you buy that's consistent. And so when you're working in the spot market, you got to find a way to be consistent. Flatbed tends to be high volume on one part of the year and low volume on another. Refrigerated has its seasons too. Same thing with van. So which seasons are you willing to put up with? Well, that also depends on where you live, how you run. There's so much more to this than, these companies that hand you the CDL and then hand you a lease agreement at the same time. You want to be the boss? Check this out. If a recruiter came up to you and said, hey, how do you like this job? Oh, it's pretty cool. I'm enjoying this. Okay, cool. How would you like to make my truck payment and pay for my fuel and still do the same thing? You want to do that? We'll let you put any kind of graphics you want on the truck, and you could be the boss. You could do whatever you want because you're the boss, as long as it's within our load board and and you do what we say. But you're free. But the important part is you're going to make my truck payment and my fuel bill. You're going to pay for that. Will I own the truck? Yeah, maybe if you're good. Would you sign up for that? Because I guarantee that a lot of you have. And I know so many people that have the determination of wanting to be a lease or owner operator. They've tried it several times, but they don't fix the things that cause them to not be owner operators in the first place. They don't have their ducks in a row. They just keep making the same mistake over and over and over. That's where failure comes in. Failure is the inability to learn from your mistakes. My name is Nobody. Tolga, what's up? Now, here's the other thing. So, had I not learned from my Landstar mistakes, which those lessons that I had to learn from Landstar didn't really pop in until Snyder, until the spot market. Because here's what happened. I could not learn the system. There were so many things that I was wrong on, and so many things that that I had a misperception about. So I said, screw this. I'm changing platforms. So I went to a contract 75 drop and hook closed low board system where I'm not even dealing with the 10,000 agents sitting on the beach with their laptops that I saw in their ads. The pajama agents is what we used to call them. And I just completely changed, and when I did the interview with Schneider, they're like, well, so what is the reason that you want to leave Landstar? Well, because I'm tired of dealing with everybody else's crap. I didn't say it like that, but I said, look, I don't want to deal with detention or deal with brokers and agents. They're like, oh, we get that a lot. I just want to click on the load, know what I'm doing, and go. So when I decided I was going to join the spot market, I knew what I was getting into. And I knew so many of my Schneider coworkers that when they came to the spot market, it really kind of caught them off guard. But I already knew what I was getting into. And so it was when I restarted this platform that I started to learn what I did wrong at Landstar. Because even though I joke about, people nickname Landstar Landstarve, it's kind of funny on Facebook. The first 10 trucks of the convoy for Special Olympics in Joplin are Landstar trucks, and they're all given like 4 and 5 digit amounts of money to be in that place in the convoy. So they're doing something right. What are they doing that I wasn't able to figure out? And that was where I failed. Is I had a few help me, but at that point I'd already given up mentally. I'd already said, you know what? I'm out. My ego took a hit, you know, and Snyder was very well for me. It allowed me to rebuild my foundation. But what had to change was my mindset. Oh, I need to download a program to track my numbers. Oh, wow. Holy crap. My Peterbilt's taking every penny I've got. I'm lucky I'm even able to buy food at the end of the week. I did not realize that. So once I changed my mindset, my foundation got better. Now, a couple of years into the spot world, or actually 1 year into it, my foundation started to crumble again because I was making some same mistakes. My mindset was eroding, complacency had kicked in and started eroding that foundation. Well, then I had to have a checkup from the neck up. Then I realized that I needed to find the the perfect middle ground of money and home time. And that's what I did. All the while working towards a plan that I have that's in play right now. If you're paid after each load or weekly, have that deposit into your business account, then pay yourself every 2 weeks. This helps you ensure you're keeping money for your business expenses. That is a great idea, CDN. As a matter of fact, let's see if I can. No, that's great. You know, in the first 3 or 4 years of, well, yeah, the first 3 years, I didn't even have a business account. It was all one bank account. Wasn't until I needed to buy a second truck that I'm like, I better probably separate this stuff. Even though I was friends with Jeffrey Like, and he promotes that. You know, sometimes people just don't listen, and I'm guilty of that by far. David Edwards, good morning. These increases in interest have not made it through the supply chain yet. That's true. Can you briefly explain what you did wrong at Landstar? Thank you. I think I just did. Never mind. Manufacturers buy raw materials on borrowed money. Yeah, that's going to be. Yeah, the ripple effects are going to hit different, and so you have to be prepared. I mean, you can't be prepared for everything, but you know, at the end of the day, you could lose everything. But what's going to get you through that mindset, right? Nomadic Brit, you could have the most devastating thing happen to you, and the only thing that's going to get you through is mindset and good friends, a good circle of people, right? You know, and Brit understands that, I think, as well, if not more than anybody else in this chat. In your opinion, which week would be a better week to take off? The week before Christmas or the week after Christmas? I'm thinking the week after, as I'd assume there wouldn't be many loads. The week between Christmas and New Year's, if you don't see any money paying loads, like the big bangers, then that would be the week I usually take off. I always am like the 20th through the 2nd. That's kind of how I always did it. But if you do have to work week, you know, it just depends also when Christmas falls. Like this year, Christmas is on a Sunday. So there might be people on the 26th working, but there's more chances of loads canceling after Christmas. So I would run short if I ran anything, but it's also my favorite time to run because the truck stops are empty. Traffic is, you know, not heavy. So there's that, but usually between Christmas and New Year's. But I was usually tried to be the 20th to January 3rd or 4th. But a lot of times I work New Year's Eve. You know, my birthday is the next day, so usually I was working on my birthday. Fun fact, fiat currencies have a 100% failure rate historically. This is true, SST. Anyone with high tolerance or know how bad your government is screwed you should read The Creature from Jekyll Island. Absolutely. So, but, you know, it's a mindset that makes you look at a low board a certain way, right? I'll give you an example. And then I've got to cut this up pretty short. All right, let's go to flatbed. Well, let's do van. All right, so this is your map for van, right? Just because it's green doesn't mean you're going to get rates. That's the evidence of Florida here. And just because it's red or yellow doesn't mean you can't get a good rate. Right? So you have to, you know, that's one mindset to look at it. But the other mindset should show you that a load in Missouri is going to pay better than a load out of Arizona. But if a market is so hot, now they don't want to pay you to go into that hot market, which is why you can't get a good rate out of Phoenix to go up to Wisconsin. Or you can't get a good rate out of, Tampa to go up to Michigan. Now, if you live in Florida, you got no choice but to manipulate and master that market. If you live in North Dakota, like Sandman, you have no choice but to know how to manipulate that market. And over the years, I've found that load availability is actually more important than well, it's equally as important as rates. Right? What good's getting $4 a mile into Wyoming when you can't even find the load to come out? You can't even find that dollar a mile fuel load, fuel paying load. So now, if you're deadheading back all the way, now it's a $2 a mile load. Well, can your business survive off $2 a mile? Well, maybe it could, but the high fuel prices have kind of killed that whole round trip thing a little bit, especially if you don't have a fuel efficient truck. So when I look at this map, I look, okay, where's the highest volumes? And just stay in those states. Who's got the lowest fuel? Maybe fuel is what's killing you, not the rates. Right? So what states have the lowest price fuel? Stay in those states. Find the balance of those states with decent rates that have the lowest fuel. Obviously, that's not going to be Pennsylvania. Obviously, that's not going to be New York. But you can take a lower paying load out of Texas because why? Because their fuel's cheap. Terrain is a big part of it. You take a load from St. Louis to Columbus, Ohio, pretty much flat. You can do 44,000 pounds and still get decent fuel mileage. But, what do you net on that? But if you're going to take the same load all the way up to Pennsylvania and it's 45,000 pounds, you're going to net less because why? Because of tolls and fuel. I mean, these are the things that I didn't know when I was at Landstar. I mean, I kind of knew, but at one point I got so desperate, I was just chasing money all over the place. And then wondering why, I was burned out, stressed out, added 100 pounds, things that at home weren't, peachy, squeaky clean. So I had to change my mindset in order to survive. And one of the first steps of doing that was I started surrounding myself with people that were like, yes, you can, not no, you can't. I stopped watching and listening to the echo chambers of people just bitching and started watching and listening to the people that had solutions. I'm no different than any of you. Other than I've made a couple of changes that may or may not help me, and I think they are. Okay, Britt, if you ever see any treasonous bankers there, tell them I said hi. We when you go to the World War II or World War I museum in Kansas City, you pass by the Federal Reserve. And my wife was like, do you feel that sense of dread in the air? That's what that building is. It was funny. She's cute. I'll listen in the background while working. Thanks for the conversation from now. You're welcome, Tolga. Fuel was killing me now, but light at the end of the tunnel. Ohio to Iowa and back, and buy fuel in Iowa or Missouri because it's $1 cheaper. There you go. And you know what the big companies do? Big companies like Swift and Schneider, they have bulk fuel discounts that they can pass on to their drivers. They're not paying full price for fuel. And they have, if you're a company driver, like for example the company I used to be a company driver for, they have people that are called, their exact job was fuel solutions, where you call them up and they tell, okay, so here's your route. You're going to be, okay, so if you're going from Springfield, Missouri to Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, here's what you need to do: top off at the yard here in Springfield, and then you'll top off in this state, and then when you get to Pennsylvania, do 60 gallons. That should get you to, back to Illinois if you're coming back. And then get this amount, and then do this. They would find the most efficient route and the most efficient places to fuel for them, because they're paying for the fuel. And if you're a carrier owner that's got company drivers and you're not doing that for your drivers, you're leaving money on the table. Because I guarantee you, it's kind of like Subway. If you own a Subway and they're just putting on the meat and cheese, at their leisure, what they thought looked good, you'd go broke. No, you got to put X amount of sliced tomatoes on each sandwich. You can't be all willy nilly. Number one, you want continuity, but number two, you want to cut down your costs as much as possible. So, how many of you are actually doing that with the fuel? Jeff sends us every morning the list of our fuel discounts from 2 different sources. And then we have apps that can look at that. This mud flap that everybody is talking about, are you utilizing that if your fuel discounts at your company aren't that great? Are you using their tools to find you the cheapest fuel? Because that's your number one cost. Nevada Trucking and Trails once told me his fuel bill. I was shocked. I was like, holy moly, there's only one person getting rich off your operation. That's the oil tycoons. Oh, Nevada. Speaking of Nevada, I mean, don't get me wrong, Nevada's making money, but I'm just saying that someone else is making more money. And that's what you have to consider. If you have a 389 like Nevada, then you have to take that in consideration. So your foundation has to be that much stronger, and your consistency and efficiency has to be that much better, because you have a challenge that maybe the truck next to you doesn't have. So somebody like Nevada has to be really, really, really on point with this fuel game, versus the guy that gets 10 miles a gallon on everything because he does nothing but light loads in a 23 T680. That person can relax a little bit, but still, if that person has the same mindset and the same ability to find the cheapest fuel possible, he's going to do even better than himself is doing. So I mean, these are all things that you have to consider. Even if you're a dispatch lease operator, you may not even be able to control where you go, but you can at least control the cost of fuel to a certain degree. So, anyways, guys, I'm gonna get off here. I appreciate everybody. 48065 on the code for 123 low board. Check it out. If you're a broker, guess what? You can post a load for free on the 123 low board. Okay, they're trying to get their volumes up as far as postings, and that's how they're doing it. So if you're a broker watching this, laughing at me, you can post free on the 123 low board. And with that being said, guys, strength for today, hope for tomorrow. You'll get through this only if your mindset is right and your foundation is strong. So with that being said, Peace.